Good evening. So, this afternoon we've shown you how you can create a full BIM product on top of the simple DWG format. But there's no reason to stop there. And in this presentation, I will try to give you an overview of our current active lines of research where we're trying to push DWG forward. And you'll see how sticking to this old but very widespread format does not have to hinder us to include the latest technologies in there. But speaking of latest technologies, you often hear people talk about checking the boxes. And it just seems that if you want to build a great product, you just have to add some machine learning to it, you add some generative design to it, you add at least some virtual reality to it, some other types of artificial intelligence, and then that's it. You just have a great marketable product. But I think if you think about it that way, this is the kind of reasoning that gets a lot of users actually a bit wary because they don't understand why all those things are added. And this is why I'm going to try to show you today why we look into these new technologies. If you ask users or architects or more broadly designers, what would be the most simple or most useful thing they could get to doing their job better? And they will all say, I would love to have some more time to actually design. I want to explore some options, I want to have the tools to better visualize them, and I want to be less dragged down by having to do several repetitions of monotonous work. I want to be less dragged down by having to start over after my initial concept. And I want to be less dragged down by having to change from file formats. And that's why all, including these new technologies, we're all using them, trying to create better tools and more time to generate more or give you more the option to be more creative in your work. So for tools, the main goal is there to create a unified toolkit. You've already seen this in the BIM demo this afternoon. For structural, we didn't invent all new commands. No, we used the BIM Connect tool that was already available. And as we're looking into kind of creating a base platform for all domains that are related to BIM, we are trying to make our commands just context dependent. They are aware in which context they are operating so that we can have one large unified toolkit. On the other hand, we're also seriously looking into giving you some design assistance. And this is assistance to let you gain time. You'll get your repetitive tasks done for you. You'll avoid errors in your model. And if you want to revert an early design decision, you get some assistance with getting it back all the way to the level you were. So that's enough as an introduction. Let me now go over the various fields we're currently looking into. First thing I want to talk about is scan to BIM. Scan to BIM, the idea is pretty simple, is that you start with a point cloud scan and you generate a full BIM model for it with minimal human intervention. This is a very popular idea in the research literature. A lot of people are looking into it, and it's actually not that simple, especially the minimal human intervention part of it. But I think at Bricsys we have a clear path of how we're going to try to obtain this full cycle, because we've always been looking, or our philosophy behind BIM was always to have the geometry first in place. So if you start with a point cloud, what we're looking into is now first detect the surfaces you can find in such a model. And then we're going to extrapolate this. It's not clearly detecting the solids. You have to extrapolate it a little bit. You have to be a little bit intelligent to generate a solid model from there. And once you have your solid model, well, we showed you this tool this afternoon. It's called BIMify. And the idea is that BIMify can get you all the generic stuff done. This is the stuff that you shouldn't doubt in it. There are no design decisions. BIMify is about, currently in V18, having the spatial locations correct and also having the classifications, but we're also looking into improve this further and adding automatic room detection in there, detection of the outer walls, and so on, to get you all the generics done so you can focus on the specific designing. Another advantage of this workflow is that it becomes very easy to mix various sources of geometry. Suppose you want to do a renovation project. Then you can start with a point cloud scan. You can model directly in BIM the extensions with our tools we showed this afternoon. And you can maybe finish it up with some imported geometry elements. And once you have assembled all of those together, you just have to BIMify the full model to get your BIM model. So the idea is, and you hear a lot, we just heard it say, that creating a BIM model comes after the architectural phase. Well, we want to make sure that creating this BIM model is not an extra burden. It should not be the extra work. The next topic I want to talk about is how you get your model in check with your design requirements. This is a new area we're currently exploring, and it's the idea that, well, if you start a project, you have some design requirements. In literature, this is often called the design brief. So, in a very simple model, that could be like existing from a certain number of floors. Those floors have some size constraints, some adjacency constraints, and so on and so on. So we're looking into creating a two-way cycle to keep your model in check with your design requirements. The first direction is design generation. And this is what I was talking about when you talk about generative design. So you have your design requirements and you get suggestions for how to lay out your project. But I said suggestions because it just gives you some initial suggestions and then you can start modeling with them. And therefore, you are looking into creating a new direct modeling tool so that you don't have to model anymore with walls or slabs, but you can model directly with rooms and can change the layout of your building in that way. Of course, I talked about associativity. If you're changing the sizes of your rooms by direct modeling, you get automatically also your requirements checked whether you are still in check with them. It might have looked like I would present a kind of a 2D idea, but all these tools, we're looking into creating them in full 3D. A 2D plan view is just an interesting visualization to get something easily done or to compare some options. But let I don't be misunderstood, we are creating full 3D BIM models. The next topic is what we are kind of started announcing this afternoon in the BIM demo. And this is that we are aim to create a unified BIM platform. This means that it doesn't matter if it's architectural, structural, MEP, or site design. We want to have the base platform ready and the base infrastructure ready so that you can, for when you start modeling it, as an architect, you can convey your design intentions to anyone. And this means that currently we've done this for structural and architecture. In the upcoming cycle, we will look to do the same or use the same tools to also include MEP in this. And we're always going to use the same modeling tools. It's just one generic approach into modeling all these domains. And of course, for structural and MEP, then we need vertical integrations, like we've shown this afternoon in our joint demo with Parabuild. But we want to make sure that the BIM platform is unified and has the same tools for all aspects. a final thing we're also looking into is into modeling the site around the building. And I brought a movie from our research department there. All right, it started. So we are going to provide some tools to create a digital terrain representation, either from topology lines or points. And then afterwards, there will be some grading tools which allow you to create the various platforms you can use to put your buildings on. Of course, these platforms are associative with the terrain model, otherwise they wouldn't be very useful. And there is our yoga studio again. These tools are also handy to create some other terrain elements, such as a pool here in this demo. So this is currently a prototype, but we're looking into making this releasable soon. The final topic, I'm going to talk of myself, and then I will hand over to my colleagues who will give another topic, or will discuss another topic, is the idea of modeling suggestions. I hope this slide is familiar, or this screenshot is familiar with what you've seen in the BIM demo. It's the idea, simple idea actually, just you pick one detail, you model it yourself. You're completely free to model it yourself because it's just direct modeling on the geometry, and you let it propagate intelligently throughout your model. This idea is very simple, but and in V18 we release it for connections between architectural elements, but we don't have to stop there. We can use the same approach to also handle connections between structural MEP and between the various aspects between them. We can also use it to place flow terminals or to place windows or create patterns of windows. We even can use it to assign compositions. So what we're also going to work on is that applying intelligently. So for the connections we're showing this afternoon, it's pretty obvious that all possible connections are also very likely connections here. So you get by default suggested all possible locations where you can get the connection done. But if you would use this tool for another ID, such as the suggestions of compositions, then you have to be more smart and you have to add some intelligence to detect where you actually would suggest it. So that's definitely a research path we have not yet reached the end of it. All right, I'm coming to the end of my part of the presentation, and I hope that I've been able to convince you that adding new technologies is not about checking some boxes so that you can put it into a marketing leaflet. It's really about asking what you could do for an architect or a designer, and then you can use all these technologies which are now available in the right way to lift the creativity of the user. Thank you.